In this episode of Rabbit, we're going to get familiar with one of the greatest stories of gambling history. How could you be a winner in a lottery? You need to be lucky? Is that all? Well, you will know a little bit more about this interesting world in a few minutes. Imagine breaking the code of the American breakfast cereal just because you're bored? Well, Gerald Selby did as it was a fun mental challenge for him. Only because he could. He was simply that kind of people who enjoyed the puzzles and patterns around him, the ones other people couldn't see or realize. This happened back in 1966 when Jerry was a simple material analyst in Battle Creek. It wasn't an interesting job, but as both of his parents worked as factory workers, he wasn't raised to complain about manual labor. One day he found himself staring at the letters and numbers stamped at the bottom of one of the cereal boxes. Jerry wondered if they made any sense, so he decided to test their content. He thought cereal with similar moisture should have been cooked around the same time. He did a little easy math, as he said, and out of the blue, he felt the dopamine right in his head when he saw a solution shine through the fog. He figured out how to trace each cereal box back to the date, time, and even the shift of its creation. With a smile on his face, Jerry recalls decades later, it was pretty easy. He didn't even care about discovering Adversary's production didn't make anyone rich. He just loved the fun in figuring out and understanding how this small piece of world worked. Jerry was intellectually restless. He enrolled in many night classes in different colleges and institutes. As years passed, he earned a pile of diplomas such as an associate's degree from Kellogg, a bachelor's in mathematics, business from Western Michigan University, and an MBA from WMU. He also started a master's in mathematics, though eventually family duties got in the way and he didn't finish. But he knew something for sure. He couldn't forget about the numbers. Now it makes a little more sense that in the age of 64, he found himself trying to understand one of the biggest and most tempting puzzles of all time, the lottery. One morning, this retired man, who at the time was living with his high school sweetheart, bought a brochure of a brand new state lottery game. Studying the flyer later at his kitchen table, Jerry saw that it listed the odds of winning certain amounts of money by picking certain combinations of numbers. That's where it hit him. There was a flaw, a kind of a strange pattern like the ones at the bottom of cereal boxes, into the fundamental machinery of the game. A loophole that would make Jerry and his wife Marge a millionaire. It was one of the typical mornings at a store in 2003 that Jerry saw the brochure for the new lottery game. Though he'd spent tens of thousands of hours watching people hope for the break that might alter their fortunes, he knew that this not only luck that rules the lottery game. People have been conditioned to think it is luck. He would later reflect. They don't look at the structure of games. Marge avoided the lottery entirely, disliking the sense of risk. Jerry bought a couple of tickets from time to time, but to him, the lottery was only interesting as a phenomenon with order, a set of rules mediated by math and a marketplace. The brochure listed the odds of various correct guesses. Jerry saw that you had a 1 in 54 chance to pick 3 out of the 6 numbers in a drawing, winning $5, and a 1 in 1500 chance to pick 4 numbers, winning $100. What he now realized, doing some mental arithmetic, was that the player who waited until the roll down stood to win more than he lost, as long as no player that week picked all 6 numbers. With the jackpot spilling over, each winning 3-number combination would put $50 in player's pocket instead of $5, and the 4-number winners would pay out $1,000 in prize money instead of $100, and all of a sudden, the odds were in your favor. If no one won the jackpot, Jerry realized a $1 lottery ticket was worth more than $1 on a roll-down week. statistically speaking. I just multiplied it out, Jerry recalled, and then I said, hell, you got a positive return here. Lotteries don't have political enemies since they help improving the society's level of living. As for the payouts, more than $50 billion goes to players in prizes, while $22 billion flows to public programs like education, senior assistance, land conservation, veteran support, and pension funds. It's far easier politically for states to raise money through a lottery than through more progressive means like corporate or property taxes. Jerry knew all of these facts, but meanwhile, he had one scary thought. Marge would have questions, Jerry knew, and he might not have perfect answers to convince her. He didn't fully believe the numbers himself. How was it possible that hundreds of employees at the state lottery didn't realize this loophole and Jerry could find it just in a few minutes? Is it that simple? He decided to test his theory in secret, simulating the game with a pencil and a yellow pad first. He picked numbers during a roll-down week, waited for the drawing, and counted his theoretical winnings. On paper, he made money. The next time the windfall jackpot crept north of $5 million and the state announced a roll-down, Jerry drove to a convenience store in Messick, 47 miles northwest of Everett, where he lived, so that no one would know him or ask him any kind of questions. He spent $2,200 and let the computer pick all the numbers. At the end, his winnings added up to $2,150, just a little less than what he spent on the tickets. A less confident person would have stopped there, but Jerry figured out it was only bad luck. Odds are not guarantees. He decided to buy more tickets this time. He knew it would be threatening for someone with no gambling experience, but if he stopped now, he would never know if his brilliant theory was correct or not. In the next windfall, he could earn an impressive 46% profit margin. He bet even a larger number in the next windfall and won a 49% margin. After that, he decided to tell his wife. Marge didn't react at the beginning. She has seen her husband solving many puzzles over the years they spent together. I knew it would work, later she said. Jerry never had the intention to alert the Michigan lottery that windfall was vulnerable. He was sure that the state was perfectly aware of the flaw already. Maybe the flaw was intentional to encourage players to spend lots of money on lottery tickets since the state took a cut of each ticket sold. In Jerry's opinion, he wasn't doing anything illegal. He just bought large quantities of tickets. His tickets would have the same odds as anyone else. He was just buying a lot more of them. In the beginning, his children didn't understand Jerry's new passion. I thought he was crazy, Dawn said. He starts to explain it to you and your eyes glaze over. Doug couldn't make sense of it either. He always said, this is just 6th grade math, and I was like, yeah, did you see what I got in math in 6th grade? Jerry and Marge insisted that they were enjoying themselves. They had the time of their lives. Jerry realized that office pools and other lodge bettors were allowed to play as corporations instead of individuals, and it seemed to him that the state was practically inviting groups to play windfall for big stakes. He asked his children to join so he can make a group and can invest larger amounts of money. That June, Jerry created a corporation to manage the group. He gave it an intentionally boring name, GS Investment Strategies LLC, and started selling shares at $500 apiece. First to the kids and then to the friends and colleagues in Everett. Jerry would eventually expand the roster to 25 members. The lottery business was good for the group. By the spring of 2005, they had played windfall on 12 different roll-down weeks, the size of the bets increasing along with the winnings. At first, $40,000 in profits, then $80,000, and then $160,000. Then, in May 2005, the Michigan Lottery shut down the game, replacing it with a new one called Classic Lotto 47. Officials claimed that sales of windfall tickets had been decreasing. Jerry and Marge were so offended. They found something they loved and it was simply taken from them without a warning. In the next month, Jerry received an email from a member of the lottery group. The player had noticed that Massachusetts was promoting a brand new lottery game called Cash Windfall. There were a few differences between it and the Michigan game. Instead of $1, the Cash Windfall ticket cost $2. Instead of 1 to 49, you could choose 6 numbers from 1 to 46, and the jackpot would roll down when it hit $2 million, not $5 million. Otherwise, it looked the same. Jerry did a little math. The odds were good. He knew he could rock this play too. What he didn't know was that, for the first time, he had a competitor.